Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome you to this exclusive youth seminar being organized by the Institute of Directors Ghana on the topic, how to manage work-related stress in the corporate space. Indeed, we are very much excited to bring to you this program, and we believe very much that by the end of this seminar, by and large, we will not be living the same. My name is Fred Aite, the Chief Executive Officer of the Institute of Directors Ghana. And at this stage, I would like to invite Dr. Rejoice Aniagyei Foley to give us the opening prayer for us to start. Thank you very much, and Dr. Rejoice, I yield.
Thank you, Mr. CEO, and good afternoon to everyone. Let's kindly have a word of prayer. Almighty God, we thank you for this moment, and we thank you for the opportunity given us to be in another session to know how to manage work-related stress in the corporate space. Everyone has burdens, and those burdens need to be managed professionally. Lord, you've given us an opportunity how to apply our emotional intelligence and make sure that we achieve corporate objectives the right way by applying our corporate governance skills. We commit the session into your care. We pray that give us great insight and give extra wisdom to Engineer Ben Richard Aniagyei, who is the facilitator for this program. I pray that you yourself, whatever we need as individuals to help us manage this so that we curb the related impediments and the related infirmities that come with it, that make our performance reduce. Lord, we pray that this session will help us so that when we get back to our workspaces, our performances will increase, we'll manage stress in a better way, and we'll also be able to impart knowledge to the others that are looking up to us. We thank you. In the almighty name of Christ, I pray. Amen.
Amen, and thank you so very much, Dr. Rejoice. And once again, let me welcome you all to this exclusive youth seminar on the topic, how to manage work-related stress in the corporate space, being organized by the Institute of Directors Ghana. The Institute of Directors Ghana is a professional body with a mandate and also championing good corporate governance and director professionalism. And we believe very much that as leaders, ensuring that organizations and businesses are governed well and run well, it's important that we sharpen our swords from time to time. We learn, we come together and share ideas on key topics that would enable us to do better, achieve our mandate, and also to ensure that we add value to stakeholders and also to the nation at large. Once again, you're welcome. I'd like to acknowledge members of Council of the Institute of Directors Ghana, invited guests, the media who have joined, and all participants of this important program. Let me start off again by going through some admin directives. This is a virtual program and we are all on Zoom. And so it's very important that we keep to certain housekeeping, which should help us to go through this program successfully. Respectfully, I'll crave your indulgence to manage your microphones. You keep them on mute while the program is ongoing and being delivered by our special speaker. I would also kindly request that please do your best to minimize background noise for one reason or the other if your microphone is on and you may be speaking. Kindly also manage your camera, the position of your camera. As a matter of fact, being a virtual program, there are times that cameras may be looking at places that participant yourself, you may not want people to see those areas. And so we respectfully request that please manage your cameras as well as you limit distractions. You can put comments in the chat box. You can put comments in the chat box and they will be picked and be discussed at Q&A session as we may get through to that. Please, you can use the reaction buttons to raise your hands or call attention, and you'll be attended to. Indeed, we have a technical team back in this program, and you see some telephone numbers that will come in the chat box on the screen for you. If you're having a challenge, you may call on 02407 14798 or 0302 732 269 in case you're having challenges and you need attention. Please follow us on our social media handle. At this stage, let us have a quick look at the program outline for this afternoon. For the program, we started off, we've had our open prayer. We've also had this welcome address and introduction. I'll be going straight to introduce the speaker for today, and then the presentation will take place. As I've indicated, please respectfully use the reaction buttons. If you want to really come in, comment or something, you put your hand up, and then also you can put comments in the chat box. But the fact of it is that we expect that we'll give the presenter or the facilitator ample time to do presentation. And once it's done that, we have a session for Q&A. We believe that the presentation probably will take about an hour and probably 15 to 20 minutes. And then we use the rest of the time, about 40 minutes or so, for engagement, interaction, feedback, questions and answers. And then we expect that probably by 2:55 or almost 3 p.m., we should be bringing this program to a close. As I indicated, this program is being powered and is being organized by the Institute of Directors Ghana. And we recommend that for non-members who are on this program, on this platform, we are inviting you to membership. And there are 2 routes to membership. One route is by direct admin, and the other route is through training based on a certain level of management that you've worked in or your experience. Indeed, you see on your screen that to register and to become a member of IoD, or how to become a member, there's a link there that you can use to register, and then you can be considered for membership. You would agree with me that as an institute championing good corporate governance, we need more advocates, more ambassadors. And so the more members we are, then by extension, we can say that we have more people out there championing and ensuring that we have good corporate governance in all facets of our lives and areas of your influence. Thank you so very much. And once again, welcome. My name is Fred Aite, the CEO of Institute of Directors Ghana. At this juncture, I have the singular honor to introduce to you our main speaker for today. Our main speaker for today is Engineer Ben Richard Aniagyei, a fellow of the Institute of Directors Ghana and also a council member. Engineer Ben is the managing director and lead consultant of B.R.A Associates Ltd, and he worked with Unilever International for over 30 years. During which period, he held several positions in areas such as chief engineer, Lever Brothers, production manager in Malaysia, technical director, Unilever Plantations, group safety, health and environment, Unilever Ghana, and also the lead HSC auditor for Unilever Africa when he was within the Unilever group. Indeed, Engineer Ben has over 40 years experience in industrial engineering, construction safety, environment, and quality management systems. I wish also to indicate that in addition to Engineer Ben Aniagyei being a fellow of the Institute of Directors Ghana, is also a fellow and a past president of the Ghana Institution of Engineering. He's a fellow of International Institute of Risk and Safety Management, UK. He's also executive council member of the Association of Ghana Industries, Tema Regional Branch. And let me also indicate that Engineer Richard Ben Aniagyei is an ILO certified trainer for SCORE Ghana project for SMEs. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you as main speaker for the seminar today, how to manage work-related stress in the corporate space. Engineer Ben Richard Aniagyei, Senior IoD. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CEO, for your kind words. May I share the presentation? At this point, I'd like to welcome everybody on board. Everybody who is now online, you are welcome. Today, we would like to have what I would call a conversation on what work-related stress and or mental health is all about. People might think that this is a subject matter that should be dealt with by a medical doctor. But no, it is not. Or by a psychologist. Yes, to some extent, yes. But today we're going to look at the fundamental ways of identifying factors in our industries, in our organizations that could trigger or worsen the already existing stress that people have from home or from elsewhere. As industry managers, the law requires that we create an environment that is conducive for work, and that makes it possible for people to perform in optimal situations. I'll therefore go straight into the contents of today's session. A bit of introduction, what our objective is, what the scope of this presentation is, what it is and what it is not, what our work is work-related stress, a brief discussion, why stress is important and why stress can also be detrimental. Then we move on to how to manage stress in a work environment. And the application of stress management standards that are available. Now, work-related stress is likely to become the most dangerous risk to business. Well-designed, organized, and managed work is desirable. But if sufficient attention is not paid to the job design or work organization and the management, it can result in work-related stress and other equally undesirable health hazards. Work-related stress can hit everybody at any level of the business. And recent research shows that work-related stress is widespread and is not confined to any particular business sector or job or industry. This is why a holistic approach is necessary to tackle it. We are all under stress to perform at work. There's no doubt about that. Indeed, some people boast that they can perform better when under stress. I'm not sure about that one. But what I do know is that a minimum realistic stress applied to the worker by way of setting targets does make wonders. The question is, how do we know the limit? The objectives are to create awareness of the existence of what we call work-related stress or mental health at work. Draw directors or top management attention to the adverse effects of poor job design, work organization, and indeed HR management on work-related stress, mental health, and well-being on productivity. Also discuss how this stress, work-related stress, can be effectively managed. If at the end of the day, these objectives are met, then I've done my job. Health and safety hazards in the workplace. There are indeed many hazards in the workplace. As I began by saying, work-related stress is one of the workplace hazards. And indeed, many people who are managing health and safety today may not know that that is also a hazard that falls well under the ambit of managing health and safety. Now, basically, workplace hazards can be divided into two categories, two main categories. One is a safety hazard, which is mechanical by type and agent, and machinery related. Access, control, transport, electricity, fire equipment, confined space, slips, and falls on the same level, being struck by an object, or being impacted or falling from height, being entangled by equipment or engulfed whilst in a confined space, etc., etc. The results of these are quick if we have an incident or an accident. And so they have what we call short-term effects. You see the effect immediately it happens. Health hazards, however, are not like that. They have long-term effects. And probably that is the reason why we don't pay specific attention to managing it in the workplace. I must say most companies manage safety, but not health. But we call it health and safety. Something that therefore is wrong. Now, when we come to health hazards, they are in 5 categories. One is chemical, that I think we all know. Then we have the physical hazards. We have biological hazards, which are viruses, bacteria, and of course, COVID-19 falls under that. That has actually opened up people's eyes to health management at workplace. But for COVID-19, a lot of people didn't know about how to manage health in the workplace. Then we have ergonomics, manual handling, workstation designs, musculoskeletal diseases, and so on and so forth. The 5th is the psychosocial hazards, under which stress comes as a section. So today, we're going to have our conversation only on the psychosocial hazards, which is stress. Maybe we'll have the chance to look into ergonomics, biological, physical, chemical areas in the future. So those of you who manage safety, please, I want to draw your attention to the fact that there is a very important area called health management that we are not paying attention to, and we need to. The scope, work-related stress can hit everyone, as I said, and at every level and function of a business. So CEOs are not exempt. It is widespread and is not confined to particular business sector, as I said. It provides information, that is the work-related stress, on how to identify or recognize psychological hazards, how to take remedial action and prevent reoccurrence using the hierarchy of hazard or risk prevention methods. What is stress? I will define stress in just one sentence. It is the adverse reaction that people have to excessive pressure or other types of demand placed on them. This definition may seem very simple, but come to think about it, it has a lot to think about. It is not a sign of weakness, if you complain of stress at the workplace, it is a health and safety issue. That needs to be dealt with. Stress exists at work and elsewhere. In fact, I would say that everybody is under stress, either from your home or social or economic or any other areas. So we have stress. So why are we making so much noise about work stress at work? Point is, we know that people cannot avoid stress elsewhere. And we also know that when you are under stress, you cannot perform at your optimum. And businesses obviously want performance at its peak. So it pays to make sure that we don't add on to the stress levels that people walk into our factories and businesses with. Now, organizations struggle to manage social health, particularly this stress that I'm talking about, because of poor understanding of the issues. Companies have no ability to identify stresses at work, and therefore do not have systems and procedures in place to deal with them. Now, let's note that there is an important distinction between acceptable pressure, which can yield positive results through setting realistic, reasonable targets for our employees, and if that is managed correctly. And we should also know that there is what we call excessive pressure, which, if not managed properly, can be detrimental to the health and well-being of our employees. That said, what is the competency required to deal with this topic? A lot of people might be thinking, who really can deliver this? It doesn't involve holding your hands, closing your eyes, and performing yoga. It's also a way of stress release, people say. But we are talking today about work-related stress. And it's about health and safety risk management relating to the workplace, and therefore should be handled by any specialist health and safety manager or professional. We don't need a psychologist. They are required at the tail end of it when people tip off after prolonged stress. You just need an understanding of the specific types of risks which are called psychosocial risks. Identifying it is the same as identification of any hazard and assessing the risks. There is, of course, a need for a good understanding of human resource management at work. Talking about the whole life cycle, recruitment, motivation, development, retirement, and separation. Work-related stress is not about clinical discussions on mental health conditions. We leave that one to the psychologists. It's not a specific quantification of mental risk, health risks. It is not subjective opinion based on biased context. And it is not an acknowledgement that whatever solutions we prescribe will be the same in every company. Why do we manage stress? Indeed, the case for managing stress is compelling as a result of 4 key factors. 1, we look at the business case, followed by the moral and ethical case, the legal case, and the impact on the business. Now let's look at the business case. Research has shown that work-related stress has adverse effects on organizations in terms of poor decision and mistakes, employee commitment to work, poor staff performance and low productivity, high staff turnover and intention to leave, high levels of absenteeism, staff recruitment, low customer satisfaction, and poor organizational image and reputation. So we need to deal with it. Talking about ethical and moral case, there is convincing evidence that prolonged periods of stress, including work-related stress, have adverse effects on health. And research shows that stress manifests itself in two main areas: physical effects such as heart disease, back pain, headaches, gastrointestinal disturbances, and minor illness. It also has psychological effects such as anxiety, depression, and behaviors that are harmful to health, like people smoking, people getting involved in drugs, and others, alcohol. And there are many more effects, but that's the psychologists who have. The legal case. Employers are required by law to comply with our safety laws, Factory Offices and Shops Act, Labor Law 2003, sections 118 to 120, International Standards, ISO 45000, clause 6, which all state that employers and organizations must ensure a safe and healthy work environment for the employees. 2, take measures to identify, assess health and safety hazards and risks in the workplace and control them. And work-related stress is no exception. We also need to comply with all legal and other requirements. Empower employees to remove themselves from imminent danger and report to their immediate supervisors for corrective action. And so any employee who is suffering from work-related stress in whichever form needs to report this, and management is obliged to investigate and control the source of the stress. Impact on the victim. Early manifestation of stress-induced symptoms in individuals vary, but often lead to behaviors that are detrimental in the long term to the person's health. Examples are increased smoking, increased alcohol consumption, illegal drug and substance abuse, increased dietary intake, decrease in dietary intake, clinical symptoms involve anxiety, inability to concentrate or sleep, and uncharacteristic irritability at work, for example. So clearly, we can see that stress is something that we have to deal with. People close from work, and instead of going to work, going home, they drive straight to a beer bar to take 1 or 2 bottles to de-stress themselves, they say. That is a sign of stress at work. Let's look at the statistics. For example, the rate of work-related stress or reflection of anxiety that has been reported between 2001 and 2020 is on the graph that you can see. And you can see that beyond 2012, 2013, stress levels generally began going up and in fact shot up during the pandemic. That is very clear. Looking at, again, the situation related to age and gender, you can see the graphs there, which is from UK, that females are more at risk with stress than men are. How do we manage stress in the workplace? One of the proven stress management standards developed by Health and Safety Executives UK include 6 steps. Now, managing it requires top management commitment, worker consultation and participation, training of whoever or the team who will be carrying out the implementation, and the need for an HSE risk specialist support if there is none in the workplace. Ideally, this process should be led not by the HSE manager, but by a senior person, top senior person, senior manager in the workplace. The processes involve putting a policy in place. We always start with a policy because policies give direction and strategy. That's how you're going to manage. So you need a policy. Having put a policy in place, you need then to identify the stresses at the work. And then decide who and which departments are these stresses manifesting themselves. Evaluate the individual or group situation. Record your findings, put an action plan in place, and finally monitor and review and ensure that the actions you put in place are indeed effective. How do we then formulate stress policy? Your policy statement should include management's commitment to identify workplace stresses, eliminate or control them. Consult the employees and safety representatives. Provide adequate resources, confidential counseling, because the issues of stress are very, confidential to a number of people. You also need to provide training, and you need a competent HR department to be able to handle stress cases effectively. Then defining roles and responsibilities, as you will see later, play a major role as part of the stresses in the work. Work functions, authority levels, and schedules are very, very, very key in determining the stresses. Finally, this policy must be signed not by anybody else in the company, but by the topmost person. If it's a CEO or general manager or whoever, he should sign it in order to give it the top management commitment it deserves. What are the stresses in the workplace? 1, that is identifying the stresses now. 1 is work demand and workload, working hours of employees. 2 is the control workers have on the job they do. Are they always dictated to do this, do that, or we ask them to tell us how best they think their job should be done? Do we support? And support should be coming from your senior person, your peers, and your subordinates. Everybody needs support. Relationships, promoting positive working relationships to avoid conflict is one of the main issues at workplace. Many people decide to resign from their work because of relationships. It is often said that people resign from work, not from the company. They don't resign from the company, but they resign from either their bosses or their peers. And sometimes, rarely, people resign because of their subordinates. Again, the other stressing area is roles, defining roles. giving people clear job descriptions and getting everybody to understand whose role it is to do ABC, who takes responsibility, and who is accountable for what at the workplace. In many workplaces, they don't take time to ensure clear rules, and therefore conflicts arise very often, which raises people's tensions and sometimes provokes fighting in the workplace. The next stressor is change management, believe it or not, how the company manages change of any form, organizational change, whether it's change of process or change of production schedules, any change at all, bringing in new equipment to improve productivity. They are all areas that give various people at various areas stress. And we as managers must take serious cognizance of this. There's a joke I saw somewhere where the fellow was saying that, oh, we have decided to upgrade all our computers, but we forgot to upgrade the operators. That is the issue. You bring new equipment without training the workers and you put them on it. What frustration, what hazards they will be facing. Let's look at a bit of statistics in UK. The figure shows the estimated prevalence rates of self-related stress, depression, or anxiety in Great Britain, and how they are caused or made worse by work. You'll find as I went through the 6 stresses, in UK, about 620 workers per 100,000 report stresses due to work demand. The second big area is support, giving people responsibilities and jobs without providing adequate support in terms of finance, in terms of equipment, material, training, competency, and so on. People are given jobs without the right number of subordinates to help him deliver. That's what we mean by support from top management. Then I will skip others. Then we have relationships. About 180 out of 100,000 people report based on bad relationship. 110 out of 100,000 reports a result of change. Then rules and responsibilities followed by control. So clearly you can see the national average. This will vary from company to company. It doesn't mean your company will follow this, but you actually go into the management and you do the right things, you will be able to identify all the stresses, which department and who individuals are affected. Now, let us take a look at these stresses one by one, delve into them. First is the job demand. The standard requires companies to ensure that employees are able to cope with their job demand. So you give people a job, please be interested in what materials and what resources are needed for him to deliver. Be also interested in the fact that the fellow's competency is, he can do the job. If he can't, then please ensure that you train him. So individual concerns in all these areas, if they report, it is not a complaint. Please deal with them. Objectives and targets set for employees must be smart and indeed smarter in a realistic time frame. From my experience in industry, a target for your employee is not a target if the employee has not signed on to it, if he hasn't agreed. Targets must be set and they must be agreed by both the employee and the boss. People's skills and abilities should be matched to job demand, and so on and so forth. Now let's look at control. Employees must have a say in the way they do their work. It is in fact necessary to consult them in setting up, the shift system. You're supposed to consult and let your worker agree on overtime. That is the standard HR practice. They are supposed to do overtime, yes, but it's got to be agreed and discussed. Systems should be in place to respond if individuals complain about their work situation. Where possible, employees should have control over their workplace, when to take their earned leave, and so on and so forth. But the standard, the best practice HR standard is that leave should not be accumulated because it does have effect on people's stress levels. People are supposed to de-stress when they go on leave, and so it is important that we grant people leave and not allow people or suggest to pay people in lieu of annual leave. That is not acceptable or not best practice. Employees should be encouraged to use their skills and their initiatives to work. Allow them to initiate things. They see things differently sometimes. Where possible, employees should be trained to cope with new challenges that come with their job, and that comes through training. They should, as a matter of law and as a matter of safety rules and regulations, be consulted on any aspect of the work that affects their health, safety, and wellness. Any company that violates this is violating the very law of safety. 3, support. Employees should receive adequate information and support from colleagues, superiors, in terms of finance, material, equipment, technology, training, and HR support. Systems should be in place to address these concerns, which means that there must be, anytime we say systems should be in place, there must be a procedure for handling these complaints. Just take a look at what has happened in an office space. As you can see from that short video, there are people who cannot manage stress. And people given jobs with no good equipment, obsolete equipment in the office can be stressful, as you can see. Next is relationships. The standard requires that companies ensure that employees are not subjected to unacceptable behaviors and discriminatory practices. Example, bullying at work, sexual harassment, tribal considerations, political affiliations, gender, and so on and so forth. These can be extremely stressful for victims. And top managers should be aware of this. If they have these kind of tendencies, they should know the effect it's having on productivity and their employees. I don't need to add to that. There must be systems in place to address individual concerns if this happens. If somebody feels that he's being shortchanged, there should be a way out. There should be a procedure for him to be able to complain, and management should listen and deal with it in whichever form. Positive behaviors should be encouraged at work to avoid conflict. And that is why in health and safety, there is a rule that there should be no fighting in the workplace. Any two people who fight should be dismissed straight away. And that should be part of the safety rules, irrespective of whether you are a manager or supervisor. You should not fight at work. Employees should share information relevant to their work. And so should managers give workers information that is necessary for them to perform their job. Managers should be seen to be dealing promptly with these issues and not condoning them. Roles and responsibilities. We are to ensure employees understand their role and responsibilities at work. We are quick to give people roles and responsibilities without authority and holding people accountable. These two are missing in most companies. They don't hold people accountable. Oh, Aniagyei, oh, we have talked to him. That doesn't work. Systems should be in place to address these issues. If people complain about their role, responsibilities, and the fact that they don't have any authority to do anything, the boss simply says, if you have to do anything, come and take permission from me. Then you might as well do the job. Why did you employ the fellow? System must be in place when somebody feels that, the manager is looking too much over his shoulders. It should be looked into. Close marking is not the right thing. If that happens, then you don't have the right person in place. You must be thinking of training the fellow, ensuring his competency before giving him that job. Adequate information should be provided to enable employees to understand their role and responsibilities. Employees' roles must be clearly defined. And one point I must say, you don't just call Kofi Mensah to your office and say, from today onwards, you are responsible for ABC, and forget to inform the rank and file, because the rank and file will not cooperate with him if they don't know that where that instruction is coming from. Then you have a problem on your hands. Roles and responsibilities should go with appropriate authority and accountability and rewards at the end of the day to ensure this canker is put to rest. Then we're talking about organizational change, process change, new equipment purchase, and so on and so forth. Moving house, companies moving from one place to the other. The worst of all is when you are declaring redundancy and workers because the company is not coming clear with its intentions, who will be affected, who will not be affected, those who will be affected, what will happen to them, and so on and so forth. It's all hidden. And so all you can hear is and that gives a lot of employees sleepless nights and a lot of pressure. So as managers, we need to know these are the 6 major stresses in the workplace. And I've taken you through them. I've taken my time to explain how they affect workers and indeed the business in general. Just a joke for you. A guy appeared in an interview and he was asked why he left his last job. Guess his answer. My company relocated and didn't tell me where. So he just went to work one day and realized that there was a notice that the company has moved to a new premises. He has no clue that the company was leaving. Clearly, there's something amiss. Now, surveys conducted among some safety and risk managers yielded the following results in the various stresses. The first, support. 77% of the respondents felt that they don't have appropriate support, poor leadership and support from top management in their companies. That's a big eye-opener. 77%. Where demand unrealistic goals and targets and lack of, constant shifting goals, constantly shifting goals, objectives, targets, and priorities in the workplace. 13%. Change, 5%. Relationship, 4%. Roles and responsibilities not being clear, 1%. Control, nothing. So that is what we got from a sample size of about 151 who took part in the survey. Now, as I said earlier on, these surveys depend on conditions in a particular company and therefore are not supposed to be used as yardstick for your company. You need to go through what we have just gone through, identify the stresses, carry out surveys to ensure which of these stresses is causing mayhem in the workplace. Yeah, so just another piece of
The latest statistics from the HSE suggest mental illness and work-related stress are on the increase. In the last year alone, 0.6 million workers across Great Britain reported experiencing work-related stress, depression or anxiety. This puts the total loss to the British economy at over 5 billion per year. The HSE's online stress indicator tool is a modern and proactive way to help manage this issue. The tool surveys employees and uses their responses to understand the organisation's risk profile for work-related stress. all questions have been carefully curated by policy experts and are centred around the 6 key areas of work design that, if not managed properly, are known to be the likely root causes. These include demands, control, support, relationships, role, and change. There are 4 main stages of using the tool. 1. Building the survey using the friendly setup wizard and tailoring the options to suit your organisation. 2. Once built and you are happy with the question set, send the survey out to your workforce. 3. You can then study your results and assess your performance overall against the management standards. 4. Conducting focus groups using the report is an excellent way to identify improvements and reduce work-related stress. The stress indicator tool's systematic approach immediately removes the barriers of not being able to do something about this growing issue. The latest research shows an extremely positive case for employee wellbeing programs, with an average return of £5 for every £1 spent. Remember, everyone has the right to come home safe and well from their job. Search Stress Indicator Tool to find out more.
So, talking about the stress indicator tool, what is it? It can be done manually, but it's much better if you use the software. A set of questionnaires are set or put together on all the 6 stressor, factor areas and given to your workers. These surveys are carried out anonymously. Nobody needs to write his or her name, and therefore everybody will feel free knowing that nobody knows who is putting these answers down. They will be very frank, indeed brutally frank with the company by pouring out their hearts as to what is going wrong in the company. Having got this, you then sort out these answers according to the 6 stresses to find out which of these areas is prevalent in your company. And then more so, drill into it from department to department to find out which groups of people or individuals are at risk. If there are any sexual harassment or any other issues like bullying or favoritism and things like that going on, it will pop up. Now, these issues will need to be dealt with in a very confidential manner. And therefore, the one in charge of carrying out this survey will have to be a senior person and or a third party specialist. Do it on behalf of the company, present an unbiased report. Now, after we have done that, then the next thing is to decide who will be harmed. Of course, some of these issues will come out with the survey report that you got. And you need to also use the availability of data you have in your company, that is, if you do have them. Things like high sickness absence, low productivity or low morale. Being open and honest helps, because you need to be sure that this stigma is not encouraged. And you should be open about it. Like I said, if you are stressed, please say so. It is not a sign of weakness. High employee turnover, most of them, these happen because people are stressed at work site. Because all these 6 areas, some of them may be very prevalent in the area and the fellow can't just go, so he will resign. Now, if you go and carry out what we call exit interview, so far as HR is concerned, the guy has every right to tell you it's confidential and he's not going to tell you anything. So it is important that these surveys are carried out from time to time. Now, performance appraisal and exit interviews, like I said, they are good to some extent, but because they are face-to-face, some people don't have the hearts to tell it all to their bosses. So they will swallow it and you will not know. Team meetings and health and safety committee may be able to tease out some of these problems from their colleagues. So when the survey is conducted, it is best to use the HSE toolkit as I have introduced to you. Questionnaires are then put in and these 6 potential areas identified. Confirm your results by identifying the hotspots, areas where there are problems, and going straight to the bosses and the people in the follow-up meetings to discuss the issues. Train the implementation team first. People that will be implementing this system need to train just as I'm training. And all these issues, the stresses, what constitutes a stress, and what are the stresses, and how can they be identified if they are present at the workplace. So people need this training over and over before you start talking about putting a stress management system in place. The stresses should now be evaluated. And this is what you do. Form work groups to discuss the stress hotspots, decide on solutions, and best suit your company, and of course the departments and the individuals. Communicate these results and give feedback to management and all employees, taking account of confidential issues. Recognize individual concerns and determine solutions and document. Evaluate them and ensure that you create an action plan and agree the implementation of solutions with senior management and employees. Don't forget to add timelines to your action points. A lot of people just put down action points. We will do this, we'll do that, we'll do that, we'll do that. And 3 months later, you go back and we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do that, we'll do that, we'll still do it. So please learn to add timelines to your actions. Share your action plans with all employees and agree dates for monitoring or review. Just a little example of how to deal with these actions. For example, you found out a stressor in the workplace, work demand in a particular area or particular group of people. What came out is that we have said leave when end must be taken. The current state is that from your survey, a large number of workers in a particular department have come out with a lot of leave arrears. Some have 2 years arrears they have not cleared, others 1 year, and so on and so forth. So that is the current state you're finding. The solution is simply to say that, hang on, how many people have their leaves? And plan immediately within the few months to get all those leaves cleared. Who is responsible? The departmental managers under whose watch these leaves have been accrued. When should this be done? Of course, leave must be taken at the end of every year, normally. So, having done this, having identified this, having put these actions in place, feedback should go to all staff on this issue, that from now onwards, this is what is going to happen. Everybody takes it by the end of the year. If you don't forfeit it, we don't pay you for it. So that then clears that canker. So again, if it's roles and responsibilities area, you look at what is happening, people's roles and responsibilities are not clearly stated, you go back to their job descriptions and make sure that you do the right thing. And then, of course, what's the current rate? What's the solution? Authority schedules to be established, implemented, and maintained. So you don't give people stresses and say, Kojo, why did you buy this? You are not authorized to sign more than 5,000. How will he know if it's not written down and he hasn't been told? So clearly you can see that these little things in the workplace do matter. And as managers, we have to be happy with what we do. Now, reviewing and monitoring, it is essential that you review any action, taken, control the stress periodically. Monitor your progress against your action plan to ensure agreed actions are taking place. Evaluate effectiveness of the actions, and if they are not, please put in additional controls to ensure that you get what you want. Initiate corrective actions to prevent future occurrence. Because once you take an action, what you need to look out for to ensure that this will not happen again. Now, a bit of statistics again. This may shock you. When we talk of mental health, employees discussion, only 11% of employees discuss mental health at work. It simply means that they have no idea that stress management is not on it. 2, only 11% of top 100 companies in Great Britain have disclosed information about their initiatives to support the employees' mental health with the annual reports. So mental health reports are not featured in many companies. Only 11% of top 100 companies do that. So that tells you how new this situation is and how widespread it is that we all need to be aware of and start taking actions going forward. Now, if you talk of mental health disclosures by employees, 8 in 10, as 80% employees report no cases of employee disclosing any mental health condition. It's because, like you see, for each of the stresses, I have put one condition that there must be procedures or systems in place to ensure that workers can report these things. Now, if there's no system in place, then nobody is going to report. So that is the point. 80% of people don't report or disclose because there's no channel for them to do. And obviously, it means the companies where this is happening don't have any management system in place. 4 in 10, that's 39% of organizations, have policies and systems in place to support employees with common mental health. That is, again, 4 companies in 10. Not good enough. And only 24% of managers have received some form of training on mental health at work. When the survey got done, how many managers have any training at all on mental health and work-related stress management? Only 24% have done that. So you can see clearly that there is an issue that needs to be discussed. Cost to UK, and this is 2018-2019 cost statistics declared by Health and Safety UK. And it's on everything, it's on total health and safety. Annual cost of workplace injury is 5.2 billion pounds in 2018-2019. 5.2 billion pounds. Total number of workers injured at work, 69,208. Number of work-related deaths in 2018-2019 is 147. And so on and so forth. Number of working days lost to injury and ill health is 28.2 million work hours. for working days. 1.4 million pounds workforce of work-related stress, and so on and so forth. Now, what are the experts saying? Welcome to these standards. We are referring to the stress management standard. In the absence of legislation, they are the most effective tool that employees can use to help end the epidemics of stress-related injuries or illness. We hope that employees will work with safety representatives to use them within every workplace. TUC. Stress at work does exist. 1 in every 5 are stressed at work. Professor Carey Cooper. Anger, unforgiveness, bitterness, and strained relationships at work put the body into a stressful, acidic environment. Learn to have a loving and forgiving spirit. Relax and enjoy life. That is correct by John Hopkins. But how do you learn to forgive people? I think it's better to learn to get a situation in the workplace that will avoid conflict. Benefits to the individual's sense of fulfillment, effective work and personal relationship, good work-life and work balance, excellent career development, good, decent, and sustainable work achievements as dictated by the Sustainable Development Goals 3, 5, 8, 9, and 10, and improve physical and mental health. Again, to the organization, high levels of discretionary efforts, high performance and cost savings, good employee motivation, development and retention, improve worker engagement, enhance productivity, innovations, and shareholder value creation, compliance to legal and other requirements like corporate social responsibility and SDGs, and improve recruitment and diversity. Some references. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That is the end of the discussion. I think we have a lot of time for questions and discussions, suggestions, and contributions from my distinguished listeners. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Engineer Ben Richard Aniagyei, Fellow of the Institute of Directors, Ghana. We are very grateful, and there's so much we have learned this afternoon. I think what I'll do is that I'll not waste much time at all, how to manage work-related stress in the corporate space. And I believe very much, as I indicated, we will not be leaving the same as we came in. So much we've discussed, we've heard, we've learned, we've sharpened our swords, and please, this is a time for questions and answers, contributions, discussion. Thank you so very much. And I have Madame Dela, well, sorry, I think I have, yes, Dela Agbeli on the,
yes,
yes, please go for it.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
please. Thank you for the floor.
And please feel free to introduce the organization that you are in. And if you're a member of the Institute, we'll be grateful also. No. Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Dela Agbeli, as you've rightly said. I work with GTI Holdings. It's an investment holding company. I'm in the Human Resource Department, and yes, I'm a member of the Institute. I just want to say this has been a great time. I've enjoyed the session. Very practical, very useful in these times. I just wanted to know if it wouldn't be too much to ask. And if the facilitator will be benevolent enough to share the slides with us, because there's lots of stuff in there. I don't know whether it's going to be done.
I'll answer that, Madam, in my capacity as the CEO of the Institute.
Yes,
You
please.
will not receive the slides directly. What you will receive, you will receive the recording
Yes,
of this seminar. And so you will receive the recording. Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. And the
Grateful
recording
once again, and I encourage that we should be having more of these sessions.
Yes. Well, thank you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you for the contribution. I appreciate your comments.
Any further contribution? In fact, we need help to manage work-related stress in the corporate space this time round, as we try to reset ourselves, our businesses. We haven't had the COVID pandemic, haven't been around, and we believe in very much that things are coming back a bit into normalcy, and that's happening. It's very important that we appreciate the times that we are in, and we very much appreciate this opportunity for what Engineer Ben Richard Aniagyei has come to share with us. Please, we still have some more time to take on some more questions. I have seen a question in the chat box from Dr. Isaac Onasisapia, and he's asking, how effective is yoga or meditation in mitigating stress and its effect? How effective is yoga or meditation in mitigating stress and its effect? Engineer Ben.
Yes, I must say that I have not delved into yoga and its effect on stress mitigation, even though I have seen and heard a lot of claims in that area. As I said, this particular exercise or this particular discussion, I have worked in the work environment in industry for over 40 years now. And I am very confident in what happens in the workplace rather than what happens in the yoga field of work. So I can't comment on that.
Thank you so very much, Engineer Ben. At this stage, I will call Mrs. Mary Asariabua, Council Member of the Institute of Directors, Ghana. Madam, I yield to you.
Thank you very much, CEO, and thank you very much, Engineer Ben Aniagyei. Very insightful presentation. Now, the bit I want to contribute to this discussion is this. Much of what has been said, if one is not careful, we may be looking more at only, if you like, the managers, the owners of business to be the ones driving stress reduction strategies in an organization. I believe that employees themselves could also come into the picture in terms of what they can do. You notice that sometimes even the behaviors and relationships among employees themselves heighten the stress level. And so if attention can go there, much education can go in there, that employees, among employees, we ourselves have very significant role to play in reducing stress in the workplace. I think that area should be critically looked at. A lot of training, a lot of engagement, a lot of education. If one can put this in there, directed towards employees themselves, I believe the mileage will go much longer than just perhaps looking at business owners and managers. That's what I wanted to add. And thank you very much again for this insightful presentation.
Thank you, Mrs. I think just to add to what you said, the slide I have put on the table, on the screen, heightens that, emphasizes that. The management system approach standard depends on senior management commitment to it. And that one, I will still stick to it, because so far as management systems are concerned, from health and safety, environment, quality management system, whatever management system you put in place, if you ask me the key success factors, top management commitment is number 1, top management commitment is number 2, top management commitment is number 3. Because having scanned all industries that I have come in contact with in these 40 years, health and safety management levels depend on the level which the CEO wants to have. And ISO 45000, which is the current, the newest health and safety standard, introduced in 2018, means no worse. The responsibility for health and safety in the workplace rests on nobody else but the CEO. Let me stress that. Having said that, it also depends on worker consultation and participation. Management can't do it alone. It has to go along with workers. But all we are saying is that management should not come with all the policies, all the procedures, and so on and so forth, and just shut it down the throat of workers. They should consult and participate. They should consult, they should be allowed to participate. And training of the workers and managers should all be part. So anybody who wants to put this management system in place will have to bear this in mind, that he cannot do it without the workers. Remember, you can only even get the stresses if workers cooperate to take part in the very survey that is going to reveal the hotspots in the company. If workers don't partake in that survey, there's no way management is going to know what's happening under there.
Mr. Steve, if you'd allow me to come back again on this point.
Oh, come back, please.
Yes, so the point made by the engineer is very well appreciated. I think what I wanted to draw our attention to in terms of maybe employees themselves helping to reduce the stress, related more to sometimes the unnecessary competition, undermining of one another, and so on and so forth. Those things also create a lot of stress in the workplace. So in terms of top management ensuring the policy directives, ensuring that they have disseminated those to staff and all of that, yes, top notch, that has to be done. Turning attention to behaviors of, if you like, workers, we ourselves, that among ourselves, there are things that we do that create stress, even apart from the policy that has been put in place. And so it's important that our attention is drawn there, because stress is stress. It doesn't matter which angle it's coming from. And so if we are creating it ourselves by our behaviors, the backbiting, the undermining, the unnecessary competition that go on, these create stress. And I'm saying that it's important that we look at all the aspects of stress creators and find ways to reduce them. So thank you very much.
Well received, Madam, and thanks for the
contribution. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you, well received. I think Mr. Julius Abol, you can go for it, Mr. Abol.
Thank you, CEO, and thank you, Engineer Aniagyei, for the wonderful presentation. Before I go on, I think Madam Mary Asariabo, thanks so much for that contribution. It's a key contribution, and I really, really appreciate it. My question is that, is it at what level does stress lead to depression? And is it possible that one can be depressed without knowing it at the workplace?
You are asking if somebody can be depressed without knowing?
Yes, and then my first question was, at what level does stress lead to depression? And can one be depressed at the workplace without knowing it?
Now, yes, what we are talking about stress management, we're talking about stress management at work. Now, because the law says that management should ensure that we create a conducive atmosphere for work to go on effectively. It is therefore our responsibility to look at, apart from looking at nails shooting out from somewhere, oil spilling on the floor to avoid people falling, and so on and so forth, we are also supposed to look at things that happen in the workplace that could endanger people's stress level. I will be the first to admit that in today's world, the stresses that we have, we cannot do much about most of them. It comes from homes, from the very, core of the society we are living in. Now, what we don't want is to aggravate that stress level by creating a situation in the workplace that adds on that stress that we have come through the work gate with. Whatever stress somebody is on, either whether it's marital problems or family problems or economic problems and so on and so forth, they are there from home, and everybody has some level of it. The only thing we are saying is that don't add to it in the workplace. And in order not to add to it, we have tried to put together a management system, how we can manage and create such what we call a conducive working space that will make people, when they come to work, at least have some respite. We also did talk about tendencies that people display when they are under stress. Talking about effect on the victim. Early manifestation of stress-induced symptoms in individuals, they vary, but often lead to behaviors that are detrimental in the long term to the person's health, and of course, people who are around them. Increased smoking. Today, you don't see people smoking on the streets, but of course, some smoke in the quiet. Increased alcohol consumption. We know that a lot of people, when they close from work, they go and sit in the beer bar for hours before they go home. Obviously, they are probably, trying to get away from some stressful positions, situations in the house, and or try and clear some stressful situations that they carried from the office by going to have some drinks to forget about it. Unfortunately, you cannot be intoxicated all the time. So at one point, when the drinks are over, the stress keeps looking at you in the face. Now, decrease dietary intake. Some people, when they are stressed, they don't feel hungry anymore. Oh, there's food on the table. Yeah, I will eat later. Signs of stress. Then there are people who, have anxiety. Others are very irritable. The slightest thing, he's angry. And that can happen in the house. It can also happen in the work site. So you are asking, how do you know if somebody is stressed? There are little signs that show up. The fellow becomes withdrawn. He doesn't eat much. He doesn't like to socialize. He gets irritated with the slightest thing. He cannot concentrate on the jobs that you give him. He's always giving excuses. And at home, he can't sleep. And so on and so forth. The clinical psychologist will be able to tell you more. But since we are not specialists in that area by prescribing drugs and so on and so forth, we want to concentrate our attention to identifying the stresses and removing them at the website. That is our primary aim. Have I answered you, please?
Yes, you have, engineer. Thank you, Stacey. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Ben. At this stage, I will call on Dr. Rejoice fully to go for it. And then after Dr. Rejoice, we'll have Mr. Emmanuel Ankama also to go for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. CEO, and thank you, Engineer Aniagyei, for this fantastic delivery. I would like to support Madam Mary Asariebo's comment that the individuals also need to own managing their emotions when it comes to how to handle stress. Because the video you showed indicated that the person is not emotionally sound. Because in a setup, a standard setup like that, that was not the best way to handle it. So if the organization has introduced strategies of how people should manage themselves within these situations, you would have been well informed and emotionally sound to handle this. So introducing emotional intelligence trainings and all that in the institutions could also help. Then my second one is when it comes to the survey, the typical survey that you presented, the typical survey report, please, is it related to the Ghanaian perspective or is from a different country? I mean, the one that the ABS team did, the association did that you presented. And finally, is there any current statistics relating to the COVID situations, how stress has been managed in various organizations in country that we can appreciate? Thank you.
Right. Yes, I appreciate that the workers should be able to control themselves when they come to work. It all depends on what rules and regulations we put in place at work. For example, no fighting. For example, no vandalization of equipment. You'll find in the video, the guy was so frustrated each time he printed, the printer was not working properly. That is, as you know, lack of support. People not caring what equipment is used to deliver for them. And that can be annoying sometimes. I am not holding brief for the way the guy, handled it by throwing the equipment into the another equipment and trying to break it and so on. I'm not holding brief for him. But as I said, we are all different in the way we handle stress and the way when we get angry. People get angry, they take guns and they shoot their own wives. So you cannot, do anything about that. That is the fellow's, genetic inherent, behavior. So let's not go there. What we're supposed to do is to create avenues. And I keep saying it under each of the stresses. I said the management must make sure that there is a process. There is a procedure through which people who find themselves in this area can report and get it done, and get it done with, get it discussed, get it solved. When there is no procedure, no system in place for anybody to air his views, if it is like Russia, where nobody can say his mind about what is affecting him, then you get this kind of reaction. So yes, we are putting the, trying to say, well, the worker, that is fine. But from my experience over the years, I think that if it will happen, it depends on the managers. If we create the avenues, they will follow. If we make the rules, they will follow. Those who don't follow, you have every right to fire them. So that is my contribution.
Thank you very much.
That is concerned.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Engineer Ben. At this stage, I would ask Mr. Emmanuel Ankama, Makofi Ankama, to make a contribution, and then we'll go to Madam Comfort Amofa
Yeah, somebody asked earlier on whether the presentation would be shared.
No.
And then the answer was that it will be the recording. But can I know why we can't get the presentation? Because normally your explanation and the presentation sometimes
Well,
they are more. So it's good that we also have the reason, because the presentation that you put on the screen and explanation that you gave not the same. So it's if we have the two, I think that will be fine, unless of course there is another reason why we are not sharing the presentation.
Madam, I think the CEO has explained that to you, and let us leave that there. And let me answer the other questions that people are asking. The effect of COVID on stress management. Yes, you will find from the graphic that I put on the screen that from 2019 to 2021, when the COVID was there, the stress level, the number of people who reported are about 180 people in hospital in the initial stages. They don't come back, they die. And everybody is afraid of getting the COVID because at that point in time, having the COVID is a sure sign that you are dying. So everybody is stressed out. Added to that, when people even get recovered, we are afraid to take them back. We are afraid to go close to them. The stigmatization has also come into play. Then we're talking about lockdown. People are literally locked down in certain places. You cannot move. People who like going to holidays, who like going to the beach and so on, going to church, cannot go to church. That presents another avenue for worry and stress. Then we ask people to work from home. Remember that the law says that when people are working, the company is responsible for their health and safety in the workplace. So long as a company has actually agreed that Kofi Mensah should work from home, the company is agreeing to a large extent an extension of the workplace to Kofi Mensah's home. Under ideal cases, the company needs to follow up and make sure that Kofi Mensah has a decent working table and facilities at home to work. I know of companies who have gone to set up a working table and chair and then computer system, and then of course even install internet for their managers at home to be able to work with. The reasons are not far-fetched. If I have to use my personal computer to work for a company from home, it's fine. The company thinks that it's saving money. But what he forgot is that I can put a very strong enough antivirus on my personal machine, or I may not have it at all. Now, if I have to work and send the report into the company, server, my computer, my home has become a backdoor to hackers. They can come through me and get to the company. That's a cyber risk, which a lot of people have forgotten. So there are a number of issues related to COVID, and I can spend hours, picking on them one by one to discuss. People are working from home. The company never calls them one day to say, Kofi Mensah, how are you? For example. What about that? So yes, the pandemic has increased stress levels beyond the normal, and the curve has showed it clearly. The situation I discussed is the same in Ghana and is the same outside, please. The statistics that I've shown, unfortunately, when I do presentation, I can only bring statistics from America, from UK, from other places. Why? You go on the net, you go to whichever area you want to, there are no seriously organized statistics that you can pick and use as an example for this type of training. Besides, if I ask the number of people in front of me now, how many companies have a stress management system in place? The answer, I don't know, may be counted on the finger, and therefore there will be no statistics available for this kind of training in Ghana. Now, if we start taking these issues seriously and taking measurements and doing surveys and so on in our various companies, we will then be able to.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you so very much, Engineer Ben. Let me go into the chat box, and we have this from Mr. Godwin Aniagyei, and his question is, what is the quantity of work that needs to be assigned by a supervisor such that an employee will not be exposed to work overload leading to stress? What is the quantity of work that needs to be assigned by a supervisor such that an employee will not be exposed to work overload leading to stress? And I would respectfully request Dr. Emmanuel Chegan to ask his question or make his contribution, and then our Honorable Engineer Ben Aniagyei would then tackle the two contributions or questions. Thank you so very much. I yield time to Dr. Emmanuel Chegan. Go for it, Dr. Chegan.
Dr. Emmanuel Chegan. Good afternoon to everybody, and my appreciation to Ben Aniagyei's contribution. In the environment where I have worked in the hospitals, and without, one of the effective tools which will answer some of the questions they are asking Engineer Aniagyei is to, like he says, institute counseling and career and counseling center or units under our HSU in our workplaces. We don't do that. We concentrate on the hard skills, but we don't have in place how to manage the soft issues of this thing. So one of the things I have even in front of me now is from the University of Ghana, where I am, careers and counseling. We have small pamphlets which we give out to students and workers. When you or any of your friends are experiencing any of the above mentioned symptoms. So some of the things that the engineer mentioned, although we are not clinical psychologists, can be mentioned. So like the incident that happened with the gentleman who was in the workplace, I am 100% certain that there have been clues in that workplace before, maybe sometimes getting irritated, sometimes shouting, sometimes banging. If there's a means whereby colleagues could have reported to an in-house person, oh, we've noticed so and so, he's now irritated, he behaved this way, he gets easily distant, he is drinking too much. If it's reported confidentially to a workplace person responsible for that, it's possible that this thing can be done. I think that's why peer counseling that can, or peer help comes in to answer the questions of the other people. How can the workers do? It's more of peer, because usually the people themselves don't usually sometimes often realize that they are stressed or they are not stressed. Then the other thing is that we don't have in our workplaces tools for exercise, tools to reduce tension. Maybe that's why somebody mentioned yoga. But we need to have our workplaces. We need to have washrooms. We need to have table tennis places. We need to have ludo. We need to have draft. We need to have things like that, so that during the break or during people close from work or those who come to work very early, they can engage themselves. And then finally, in the past, we used to have clubhouses where workers used to meet on evenings or weekends. That's when they can get to know each other, and all the issues of anger, bitterness, competition, and all this will arise. So I just thought we should have to look at it more holistically. And now, since mental health has become an issue, we now incorporate into our establishments, into our policies, those aspects that are beyond instruments, beyond training, beyond finance, beyond equipment, and then concentrate on the human resources who are actually the people who want to use. I think that's the little contribution I would like to give. I hope I've helped to give some more perspective to what we are discussing this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Shegan. Thank you so very much. Very much appreciated. Very insightful. Thank you very much. Engineer Ben, I yield.
Okay, Doctor, let me start with Doctor. Doctor, I agree with you 200%. As I said, in the workplace, our policy statement, and it's on the screen, our policy statement should include management's commitment first to identify the stress, discuss, eliminate, control them, consult employees. So in the consultation, people who feel they have stresses, people who feel that they have been given too steep a target that they cannot have their hands around, can bring these things up for discussion. I said in the policy, we should state in our policy that we will provide adequate resources for the work. And resources means training, ensuring competency, equating competency to the work that we give to people, providing confidential counseling to individuals if possible. This could be done through the HR department. Unfortunately, HR department is one of the departments I find in most SMEs that are missing, because the people think that you can just go and take anybody and bring him and make him an HR. Normally the HR in these institutes are appendages. They said the HR, they give it to the administrator to do because they don't consider it. But HR is at the heart of people's management and should be looked at as that. So I talked about effective HR professional in the workplace has to play a role. Then roles and responsibilities and authority levels should clearly be done at every level and function. So clearly you see what the policy, once this is your policy direction, everything comes out of it. And you find that the doctor is stressing this confidential, counseling and so on and so forth. The next one is recreational facilities in the workplace, which helps people to rewind. I remember in those days when we closed from work, just behind our Unilever factory, we have our tennis court. So we go there and play tennis 1 hour or so, rewind before we go home. And during the, break period, lunch period, there are Ludus, Oware, and all these cards that are in the canteen. So when you finish eating early, you can play cards, and rewind with your people. These are not, when you talk, somebody will say, oh, that is for, international companies, they do that. We are not Unilever and Co. and so on and so on. And I listen. But if the thing is good and is giving a good effect, why can't we do same? And, so these are important. So they do help. Now let me go to the second one, quantity of work. Again, you have, if you equate people's competencies to the job level that you give them, the problem is solved. Our problem is we engage Kofi Mensah, we put him on the job, we say he should train on the job. It is one of the statements that I just don't want to hear. For all the ISO standards and management system that I have implemented for companies, you can see they follow a specific method. You engage somebody, the standard requires that once you give him his job description, the next thing you should do is to train him to be competent in the job before you put him on the job. We do it the reverse way. Let him go and learn on the job. We forget that the guy who is on the job going to teach him is only going to teach him what he has remembered from all the things he has learned several years ago. That's what he's going to pass on. All the ones he has forgotten, the new fellow is not going to get it. But if you go to the classroom, then all the, rudiments from 1 to Z, there's nothing like I've forgotten this one when you are training. So you get the proper training before you send him on the job. One, to avoid that, train the fellow before putting him on the job. Don't only train, test and be sure he is competent to handle what you want him to do. That is a solution for that. I also said somewhere in the presentation, this issue of setting targets has become a very core issue. I have had to give presentation on how to set targets for a number of companies because they just miss it out. I want to set a target for my subordinates. First, I tell my subordinates to bring the targets. And I look at it, I say, oh, but I think you can do better than that. Why, instead of 3, why don't you make it 4? We discuss it. It's a discussion. If he says, sir, if before I can make it 4, then I need training in this area, he has given me a lead. So if I want him to do, the 4, then I have to give him training as a condition. Fair enough, I'll take it up. I say, all right, let's move to 4. And then the next 3 days, I put him to train him in the area he thinks he's not competent. And here we go. There is no problem. So targets must be set, discussed, and the sign-in of the one who is going to carry out the target is very important. If I don't see the signature of your subordinate on his target, I don't accept it as a target that is done. So if we can hold on to these principles, they are best practices. You don't say because I'm the boss, this is what I want you to do. No, it doesn't happen that way. Then you'll be leading into the situation the questioner is asking about matching quantity to the person's capabilities. So again, it is a management problem that I think we should look at and not take for granted. Thank you.
Yes, so we Madam Comforter Mufa will go for it. We have 4 minutes to be finishing. And so Brad, what I also recommend is that after Madam Comforter Mufa, Madam Della would also go for it. And then we'll bring the last 2 contributions for our closing. Thank you so very much, Madam Mufa. Go for it.
Good afternoon. I'm very happy to be part of this webinar. Actually, I would really talk about management commitment in all that Engineer Ben has said, and I will go with him from A to Z, because all the points that he made mention of and all the solutions or the points that he made references are geared towards management commitment. In fact, if there's lack of support, control, all the points that he made, everything boils down to management. If management doesn't have processes and procedures in place, and what I would want to suggest as I'm privileged to be speaking to directors of industries and organizations is to not shield their supervisors, because we've had instances where supervisors will abuse and will cause so much stress to subordinates. Madam Mary made mention of the contribution of the acts of employees in dealing with the stressful events in their workplaces. But there are managers and supervisors who are abusing or causing stress to subordinates, and subordinates can't talk about it because the company shows the supervisors. Please, as directors, please look into it and ensure that everyone is given the privilege and the equal right to vent out or to make it, their contributions known. As a way of ending it, I would want all directors listening now to read more about vicarious liability. And we talked about employer being held responsible for all the wrongful acts of their employees. You could say that employees have their part to play, everything, but until you put an effort and make sure the systems work as an employer, one day if you are standing in court because of the acts of your own employee and you are being questioned, that is where you appreciate the fact that you had a very major role to play in all these health-related or mental health activities or problems in your organization. Of course, employees have a role to play, but employers equally have a major role to play. So please let's look at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. That's 100% correct. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you very much. And at this stage, I believe we have a couple of minutes to go. Let's take a brief, quick comment from Professor John Kobla, and then we'll go to Madame Delagbeli. Okay. Prof, go for it.
Thank you, CEO. One of the things I always hear and which I just laugh about is the commitment of top management. It's something we take for granted. Director of Compliance, Director of Internal Audit had never been allowed or had never reported on the level of that commitment. I have not seen it in any annual report of any organization. Why do we take that thing for granted? Just because it must be there, so we take it that it is there. Why don't we report on it? Why is it not audited? Why don't we determine the compliance with that particular assertion? The fish always rose from the top. When was the last time we actually looked at the gills and reported on the gills of the fish and said this fish is rotting? There was only once, that's in the case of Chirac, that somebody who was dismissed got peeved and went to Chirac to complain and said, it is not only me, before me were 2-3 other people, but they just were dismissed and they just left and went away. And Chirac says, let's get their names. And they recalled those people and reinstated them, give them everything that they were entitled to. But just taking it by word of mouth, the commitment of the top management is just a farce. We need to stop. We need to stop that and making sure Director of Compliance, Director of Internal Audit actually audits the extent to which those that we have been taking for granted are actually happening. Thank you. Excellent presentation and excellent discussion.
Thank you so very much, Professor John Aheto. Thank you so very much. And we'll take the last contribution from Madame Delagbeli, and then we will be taking closing prayer, and then we'll be bringing this very insightful discussions to a close.
Thank you very much. I think I'll be very snappy because the last 3 speakers have echoed my thoughts. But I just want to draw attention to the fact that at the bane or at the heart of all this lies organizational culture. And we all know that culture is carved by leadership. So yes, we can't do away with leadership. They dictate the culture. Whether good or bad, it is leadership that is dictating it. So all those bad practices that we are talking about and thinking that it's a worker's responsibility, it's actually because of a culture that has been created and institutionalized by leaders. And so yes, leadership has 100%, if not 200% role to play in all that we have discussed here. I would want us to take the issue straight into organizational culture. Maybe next time, Engineer Ben will now maybe relate stress to organizational culture, then we can appreciate the issues better. My little contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Madam Della, for carving out probably what will be our possible seminar topic. That is organizational culture and then stress management and health, occupational health, safety and environment. That's well noted. Thank you so very much. And I think that let me take this opportunity to thank Engineer B.R.A so much for the insightful presentation. We've learned so much. In fact, for me as the CEO of the Institute, really the way I came in at the beginning, I'm not living the same. I've learned so much, sharpened, but more importantly, please let us apply the tools and what engineer has shared for us, and also the contributions which have been made by contributors for this program. Institute of Directors, Ghana, we are very grateful for all of you participating, taking time off to join this year seminar. Watch this space, and assuredly, we'll be having some seminars also in May. And as usual, we'll be putting the invites on relevant platform. And once you receive the relevant information for the seminars, please feel free and also share them to your network and influence so that we can have more people to sort of appreciate this. And when we implement and apply, we believe very much that humanity, and for that matter, the country will become better off. And for that matter also, we ensure that we do the right thing to really see how and the place of stress in our occupational and the corporate space. Thank you so very much. And at this stage, I will yield time to Dr. Rejoice fully.
Mr. President.
Engineer, do you have some comments to make?
Yes, just a quick, comment.
Thank you so very much.
Then we'll finish.
Engineer, please go for it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So I just wanted to say, and introduce the relationship between the International Institute of Risk and Safety Management and IoD. You probably, forgot to say that. And the fact that we want IoD members to join the Institute. It is very important because every director manager needs to know about risk management. The very core of our job requires risk management. And Institute of Risk and Safety Management is one of the institutes that ensure that this happens. And so I would, invite members to join the Institute if they so wish. They will have a lot of insights on risk management and health and safety at their disposal. So that is what I want to turn out. And that we have in the course of this another interesting topic that is coming, but that will be presented by Institute of Directors personnel from UK to us. And when we do screening, they should make sure that they don't miss it. I'm very happy about the numbers that turn out for this presentation. If any company wants any assistance, please, they can get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Engineer Ben, very much appreciated. And at this stage, I yield to Dr. Rejoice, to give us a closing prayer. Thank you so very much, Dr. Rejoice. I yield.
Thanks to Engineer Aniagyei, thanks Mr. CEO, thanks to all the organizers of this program, thanks to our media partners who are on this platform. Let's just have a short prayer to conclude this. Heavenly Father, we thank you that this session has been successful. I pray that you grant the resources and provide the logistics to our executives, to the steercos, to the ESCOMs in our various organizations, so that they can create the environment that will be sound for us to be able to manage stress-related issues. Give us the grace as individuals also to adapt to these situations, that at the end of the day, our reactions will not bring financial loss to our organizations, but it will rather build and add value. In Jesus' name I pray. Send everyone to their destination. Those who are driving, they'll go home safely. Those who are home also, help them to conclude with their daily activities excellently in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. And then wish you all the best. And we look forward again to participate in our next seminar. You'll receive the details on the various platforms. Thank you very much. Bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.